animation is the illusion of movement. But then why do people say something has bad animation? Hello, my name is Dimitri and I'd like to talk about animation itself. Before we get to the different types of animation, first I will discuss art style versus animation and the misconceptions behind it. Whenever I go online and see people talk about cartoons and anime, one thing that is usually thrown around is this has bad animation. It's usually the fans of said show that say that, and when they criticize it the wrong way, they spread misinformation. The way they critique it is not how you should judge animation. Instead of judging it in motion as it should be, they judge it by still frames. When you pause something in an animation, you're just looking at a static image. After all, is an animation about motion? And shouldn't it only be judged in motion? Art style does not equal animation, and animation does not equal art style. Art style is just a visual representation of the medium, which leads to animation is just for kids. While the reason behind this mostly involves art style, it's not entirely true. While there are animations aimed at kids such as SpongeBob, Teen Titans Go, and many more, people seem to forget the success of adult-oriented animations, such as The Simpsons, which was the gateway that led to more and more adult animation productions. Tell me, would you say that South Park and Family Guy are suitable for kids? Animation is an art that can be enjoyed by both adults and kids. It's an art that can be used to tell a story, and that story can be something that both sides enjoy. It's because of this it's for kids mentality that most companies have not adopted animation in their business. It was mostly because they thought that there was no room for it to exist in their business. This is changing though, because companies are now realizing that there is room and that it gives them a chance to broaden their business. By doing this, they can attract new clients in ways that they could never do before. Why else would you see more companies asking for animators? To help with ad campaigns, of course. And the last thing I'll talk about for this segment is there is no room for job advancements. What this means is that the animator's role is only delegated to artists and animators. This one's a bit weird. It's hard to believe that there are people out there that think that there is no advancements. As someone who is studying animation, one thing I can say is that they must have missed something. If you look around you in the 21st century, what you're surrounded by is filled with many different types of animation. You see it on billboards, on your phone, on your TV, in the games you play. Everything that has a screen is your gateway to see some sort of animation. The animation industry is one of the most vibrant places to work, with new ways of animating being developed and new software being used to make more wonderful art. The art form known as animation is something that has a lot of potential. Animation is everywhere, but now it's time to talk about the different types. We have our traditional 2D, both hand-drawn and digital, and 3D CGI, which are seen in movies and games. But let's start with traditional animation, which was done with cameras, paper cells, and paint. This type of animation was done once color televisions arrived, with Disney being the one who pioneered in this. The thing about this type is that it's not as common as it once was, at least in the US. It's been phased out as more companies adopt 3D over 2D because the cost is a lot lower than it would have been if they did a movie in traditional hand-drawn animation. There is a limit to 2D that 3D has the advantage of. One of those is easily having a dynamic 3D camera in your shots. While possible in 2D, it can be done faster in a 3D space. That's why at least other parts of the world, like Japan, adopted a mix of both. One of the companies known as OLM has done this with the Pokemon franchise. Looking at some of their recent works, Pokemon XYZ and the 20th anniversary movie, they have shown that 2D animation can excel well with 3D backgrounds. Just looking at the battle scenes from the show and the movies will show you what I mean. I can't show it here because, but let's have a look at some stages of 3D animation. How do you like that? Next thing is clay animation, or animation for masochists. It might have gotten easier to replicate because of CG animation, but the medium is still done by certain companies. The difference between this type of animation and others is it's a more hands-on type of animation. You move your clay models frame by frame using your hands. This type actually takes a long time to do one movement. One movement could actually take up to a week, months, or even a year. It depends on what you're doing. But movies such as The Nightmare Before Christmas, Coraline, and many more show how special this type is. Let's not forget sprite animation, which only really seen in games. There's not really a lot to say about this one, other than the principles of 2D animation apply to it as well, but you can be limited by the amount of pixels you use, whether it be 8-bit, 16-bit, or 32-bit. And with this, I'll end it. Now, if you're wondering why there's no text box down there, well, it's because I'm going off script for this one. But anyways, one thing I'll say is this. Animation has grown over the years and evolved in many ways. You could see it that more and more people want to actually do it. They want to make an animation. And that's really nice to know that this medium is becoming more and more desirable. Most people think that there's no place for 2D animation anymore. That's not entirely true. While 3D might be the rave in the US, 2D animation is still something big all over the globe. In other places, it's still something that's viable. It might take a lot longer than 3D animation, but with more and more techniques and software to come out to help with this, it's a lot easier. But anyways, I'll leave you guys off with this one last footage, or maybe I should say demo reel. Enjoy.